Bound to the Prince. Chapter 8. The Shadow Between Them. Several weeks passed, but Elena could not shake the memory of that night in the private room, the way Dante's eyes had caught hers, the low warning in his voice, the heat of his body just before he left her standing there trembling. Life tried to crawl back to normal. She worked her shifts at the restaurant, studied at the university, and tried to convince herself Dante Moretti was just a bad dream in a too real city. But the city wouldn't let her forget him. It began small. She'd be walking to work in the soft morning light, hair still damp from her shower, and she'd feel it, eyes on her. She'd glance over her shoulder, but the street would be empty except for a delivery truck or a man in a suit smoking against a wall. Then she'd cross a narrow street, and a black car would glide past, windows tinted. For a moment, she'd swear she saw Dante's profile behind the glass. Sharp jawline, dark hair. But the car would vanish into traffic before she could be sure. At a cafe near the university, she was sipping her espresso when she looked up and saw him through the window across the street. He wasn't doing anything, just leaning against a lamppost, phone in hand. But his gaze flicked up, straight to her, like he knew exactly where she was sitting. By the time she blinked, he was gone. The encounters became like ghosts, barely there, impossible to prove. Was he following her, or was she imagining him into every shadow? Elena began to hate herself for noticing. Every time she saw a dark suit or a sleek car, her pulse quickened. Every time she heard his name whispered at the restaurant by gossiping staff, her stomach twisted. She told herself he was just toying with her. That was Dante Moretti's reputation after all. Pick a girl, make her dizzy with attention, then leave. That was what Sophia had warned her about. But a part of her whispered another story. That he wasn't watching because of desire, but because of suspicion. Because of last week. Meanwhile, across the city, Dante's world was colder and sharper. He didn't just watch Elena out of hunger. Hunger was the part he was trying to ignore. He had men tailing her, faces he trusted keeping their distance. He read their reports every night. Nothing about her life screamed danger. She studied. She worked. She went home. But still, something about her presence at the party, at the restaurant, at every accidental crossing. It was too neat. Too coincidental. Either she's the unluckiest girl in Florence, he muttered to himself one night, flipping through a thin folder with her photo clip to it. Or someone sent her. He remembered the slip in the rain, the moment his arms caught her body. She had looked at him like prey, like someone who hadn't expected to be caught. And yet, her eyes hadn't lied. Dante leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. His men thought he was obsessed. Maybe he was, but until he knew the truth, he wasn't letting Elena out of his sight. By the end of the week, Sophia noticed it. "Elena, you've been zoning out for days," she said, snapping her fingers in front of her face as they folded napkins before the dinner rush. "You drop trays, you don't laugh at my jokes anymore, and you look like you're watching ghosts." "I'm just tired," Elena murmured, eyes fixed on the silverware gleaming under the restaurant lights. Sophia frowned. "Tired, huh?" "Or haunted?" Elena sighed. "Sophia, don't Sophia me." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "This is about him, isn't it? Dante. I can see it all over your face. You've got that look. What look? The one that says you're thinking about a man you know you shouldn't be thinking about?" Elena laughed softly, though it lacked any real amusement. "He's not. It's not like that. I barely know him, but he knows you, Sophia countered. And that's the problem. You don't play with people like him, Elena. Men like Dante don't like. They own. Elena stiffened, the words sinking deep. She wanted to argue, but she couldn't. There was truth in Sophia's tone, heavy and bitter. Sophia sighed again, more gently this time. Look, I know what'll fix this. You need a break. There's a bar I know. My friend owns the place. Music, drinks, decent crowd. You'll come with me tonight. I have work, no excuses. You're coming. And somehow Elena did. That night, the city's pulse felt different, looser, more alive. The bar Sophia dragged her to pulsed with amber light and smoke, laughter spilling from the open doors. The kind of place where memories blurred and problems went quiet under the thrum of music. Sophia ordered shots the moment they walked in. To forgetting, she said, handing one to Elena. To forgetting, Elena repeated, though her mind whispered Dante's name instead. One drink became two, then three. The world softened, and Elena let herself laugh for the first time in weeks. Sophia danced near the bar, waving to familiar faces, and Elena followed, hesitant at first, then lighter. But the more she tried not to think of Dante, the more he filled the spaces between each heartbeat. His voice, his eyes, the way he said her name that night. It all tangled inside her like a knot she couldn't loosen. Hey, beautiful, a man said, cutting through the music. He had that easy smile drunk men carry, charming but careless. Can I buy you a drink? Elena almost said no. But then she heard Sophia's laughter from somewhere behind her. Have fun, Lena! Forget about him! And something inside her snapped. Maybe she should forget. Maybe Sophia was right. So she smiled back, sure. The man took her hand, led her to the dance floor. The music was slow, sultry. His hands slid around her waist as they moved, too close, too suggestive. But Elena didn't care. She was tired of caring. She wanted to feel something that wasn't confusion. She closed her eyes and let herself sway, pretending that every brush of skin wasn't a memory of Dante's touch, pretending that this warmth wasn't counterfeit. But somewhere above them, on the second floor, Dante sat in the VIP lounge, watching. He had come for business. He stayed for her. At first he thought it was coincidence, another crowded night, another meaningless face. But then he saw her on the dance floor, saw the way she moved, saw the man's hands on her. And for the first time in years, something inside Dante snapped. The glass in his hand cracked under his grip. Sir, one of his men asked, startled. Clear the floor, Dante said quietly, standing. His voice was low, but dangerous. Now. The chaos that followed was sharp and sudden. Music faltered, a shout, a scuffle, Dante's men moving through the crowd like shadows. The man dancing with Elena stumbled back, muttering something, before Dante himself stepped forward, presence dark and commanding. Elena blinked up at him, disoriented. The lights blurred. Dante, she murmured. He didn't answer. His hand found her wrist, firm but not cruel, and she felt the heat of it even through the haze of alcohol. Let's go, he said. She wanted to protest, but the strength in his tone left no room for argument. The crowd parted. Somewhere behind them, she heard Sophia's voice and Marco's deeper one, arguing, then fading, as Dante guided her toward the exit. The night air hit her like cold glass. She stumbled, half drunk, half dreaming. Why? Why are you always here? She asked, voice trembling. Are you following me, Dante, or is this another one of your games? He didn't respond right away. His jaw tightened. If I were following you, he said finally, you wouldn't notice. That should have frightened her. Instead, it made her heart skip. Inside the car, silence wrapped them both. Dante sat close but didn't touch her. His eyes flicked toward her, unreadable, every muscle in his body taut, as if he were fighting something invisible. Elena slumped against the seat, her words spilling out in a soft, slurred rush. You don't talk. You don't explain. You just appear. You confuse me, Dante. He turned his head, and for a moment his expression softened. You shouldn't be here tonight, he said quietly. Maybe not, she whispered, but you came anyway. He didn't answer, but the weight of his silence said everything. By the time they reached the penthouse, Elena was fading in and out of consciousness. Dante carried her up the steps, his movements controlled, careful. A maid appeared in the doorway, startled, and Dante's voice was low but firm when he said, Guest room. Take care of her. Elena barely registered the touch of cool sheets or the dim light overhead. All she remembered before sleep took her was the warmth of Dante's voice somewhere nearby. Find out everything about her, he said into his phone, and find whoever's been watching her. Then darkness.